Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We bring you stories of faith, love, and devotion. Yeah, just kidding, please help us grow by hitting that like button. Now on to the story. Update from wife had an affair. I know it's been a while since my last post. I want to thank everyone who contacted me. I apologize for not getting back to you. Life has been crazy, but I hope you understand. A lot has happened that it's only right that I give you the conclusion to the story. First, I want to clarify two things. 1, I noticed in the comments that my story was fake because I didn't think that the texts were proof. I knew my wife was sitting and my friend said that it was probably nothing. He meant this because he, and others, feel that sexting is not cheating. I took his word for it. Plus I didn't want to face what was going on. 2, the reason why I wanted feedback for meeting my wife is purely because I wanted validation that I did the right thing. As I said, I already met my wife but wanted to, and others in my social circle, see if I did the right thing in your eyes. Sorry, I should have been more clear about that. As I said before, the story is complete for me, but I want to tell you the conclusion of it. So here it goes. After meeting my wife at the beach, my head was in bits, as stated before. My wife is still trying to talk again, but I'm still not processing everything that's happened. I still talk to my therapist. However, my wife is seeing a psychologist at the private hospital that her parents paid for. I found this out because I saw my wife's parents when I was hiking by myself. I was walking through the shallow stream and I heard my name being called out. It was her parents. I was slightly worried about seeing them, especially after meeting with their daughter at the beach. I thought to myself, what did my wife tell them? Did she lie to them? Did she badmouth me, etc., etc.? Turns out she didn't at all. Her parents came over, the mother hugged me. The father shook my hand. Both apologized for what happened, but I said they haven't anything to apologize for. My wife's mother suggested we find a bench and talk. I agreed. The mother started first. She told me that my wife has been committed for a psychologist. I've known my wife's parents for years, they have never lied to me. I've always found them genuine. Now they both stated what happened from their end with Margus. It turns out that not only was my wife a complete bitch to me but to her parents as well. A little backstory: before Margus, my wife loves drawing. She gets it through her mother. She, her mother, and others would have a drawing social group. My wife loved it. They did this for years. It made my wife happy. However, after meeting Margus, she stopped going. She didn't even give a reason. When my wife's mother called her, she got defensive and completely rude to her mother. She even swore. My wife never, well, hardly, swore. But this time she did. She would say, I don't give a shit about the group, it's sad and pathetic, like you, etc. My wife's parents said this wasn't isolated at all. They tried to talk to her about the behavior change, but all they got was abuse. At the time they assumed it was because of me, in that we were having troubles. They didn't think it was because of an affair at all. It was only after I left that my wife also called her parents, then everything made sense. After I went to Adams, my wife went to her parents and laid everything out. The affair, what she did, what Margus made her do, etc. to them, it made sense, but they were disgusted as well. Her father went all in on my wife to the point that my wife had a panic attack. To them, hearing their daughter tell this story just didn't compute. This was their daughter. Not a person who cheats, or lies, or abuses people. But this brought me back to my therapist and her believing that my wife was being groomed by a sociopath. My wife is a victim of a psychopath. Therapist: no, not a psychopath. A sociopath. What's the difference? Before this, I'm ashamed to say I had no idea. Therapist: psychopaths change their personality to fit in their social circle. For example, if they meet someone who is happy and outgoing, they change into that person. Sociopaths do not change. They make sure that the person they are closest to changes. They mold that person into a negative, vile person. Me, okay, it does make sense. Therapist continues. Margius clearly was doing this with your wife. He made her talk to her parents in a disrespectful manner. He purposely chose people who defend Nazis for the videos. Me, how can someone have a hold over someone? Are you saying that my wife is a victim? Therapist, yes. I know that sounds obtuse. But people with sociopathic tendencies are very influential. More importantly, extremely controlling. Back with my wife's parents, the mother was saying that she is seeing a psychologist. Her parents looked slightly strained but at the same time relieved. Relieved that their daughter is getting help. A few weeks later my wife's mother contacted me. During the past weeks, I speak with her often. She said that she agreed and wants me and her to talk and consult her sessions. Basically, my wife wants me and my mother to talk to her psychologist about what is happening. I ask myself, should I do this? I mean, it was agreed that my wife would sign the papers after the meeting. But something feels like, I'm not sure. Anyway, we agreed. After a few weeks of sessions the psychologist spoke to me and my wife's mother. Wife is outside waiting patiently. A bit like my therapist, she was blunt but in a soft Irish accent. Psychologist, speaking to us both, your daughter has PTSD. Her relationship with Margius was abusive, grooming and controlling. It has affected her from the start of the relationship with Margius. Me, she got with him in the first week. To me that's hardly someone who is fighting for me, I said abruptly and rudely. My wife's mother looked at me with a stern look of shut up and let her finish. Psychologist, as I am saying, Margius had all the attributes of a perfect being. We all have them in our minds of what that being is. When Margius started at your wife's work, he was perfect. Not in just your wife's eyes but others as well. I know this is hard, she looks at me, but your wife was honest. He chose her. This perfect man chose her. Me, I'm okay, so she forgets she's married? Psychologist, she holds up her hand, I'm not saying what she did was right. Yes, it's true she found him attractive. However, his personality is not about manipulation with kindness. For under a year, he programmed her into thinking he's perfect and, looking at both of us, you are not. Your wife was conditioned intensively that she began to actually believe it. This is why she mentally abused you, again looking at us both. This was him. After talking, we saw my wife in the lobby. She looked up at us both and smiled sheepishly. I looked at her, wanting to hate her. Wanting to make her suffer. Wanting revenge. But these emotions didn't come. Why? Time has passed. And there is something I need to do. I did it last year and will do it every year. I go where I need to go. I look at it and start to feel emotional. Daniel's grave. Daniel passed away a while back. At the funeral I saw my wife, not taking it well. As I said before, my wife and Daniel have known each other since they can remember. I remember Daniel speaking to my wife after the affair went public. My wife apologized for everything. Daniel forgave her. At the grave I don't say anything, just sit there in silence. That is until I saw my wife there and sitting next to me. I look at her and she cries. I've thought about shunning her countless times. Being cold to her etc. but I couldn't. I knew that today wasn't about us but Daniel. And so for the first time in a long time, I hugged my wife. Time passes. I'm still seeing a therapist and my wife is still seeing the psychologist. I sit in the coffee shop just looking out and seeing people. People looked happy, it made me smile. Here's your cranberry juice, my wife said as she sat opposite me. We've been talking for a few weeks now. Nothing romantic, just getting to know her again. We meet again because my wife wants to tell me something. We agreed to meet by the lake. Now I'm wondering what it is. Is Margius back? Is everything okay? I arrive first and within 5 minutes she arrives. I immediately say, is everything okay? She laughs and says everything is fine. She hands me a box. What is it? I said. "Just open it," she said with a smile. I opened it and it was the crest of my family. I looked at her with a pleasant bemusement. "Happy anniversary," she said. After all this time, she remembered. She remembered that having family heirlooms is so important to me. But that wasn't all. She gave me another box. I opened this one. It was a photo album of us and Daniel, us and our families, us when we were happy. I was near to breaking. She put her hand on my shoulder and said, "This isn't a feeble attempt to win you back. I bought these because I know it's important to you, and so it's important to me. I know that there has been a lot of hurt. But I want you to know that I love you. I always have and always will." I look at her, not knowing what to do. But she leaves, still smiling. She always had a nice smile. I watch her walk away and I smile. I'm walking along the beach. It's a beautiful day. I buy fish and chips and my wife and I sit on rocks and watch the sea. We talk and talk. We talk about the day, our families and friends. I often reflect on what happened back then. I never thought I would be eating with my wife after what happened. But I have to reflect. But reflect on what the psychologist said, as well as my therapist. Psychologist, how do you feel? Me, what do you mean? Psychologist, about your wife? Me, I'm not sure. First I wanted nothing to do with her. But as time has gone by I feel more clear about things. Psychologist, things? Me, about my wife and Margus. Psychologist puts her arms on the table and leans towards me. There is no Margus anymore. Your wife got rid of him. Your wife has made no secret that she wants to reconcile. This has nothing to do with Margus now, it's about you. After months of seeing your wife I can say that he will never be a threat again. She continued. I understand your skepticism. I do. But you wouldn't be doing this or meeting with her if you didn't still have feelings for her. The only question is, do you follow what you think is right? Or do you let him win? My therapist said the same thing at the time. For those 11 months the pain was too much. However, they say time is a great healer. And for this time I feel I have gotten to know my wife again. After we finished our food, we slowly walked along the beach and I did something that I haven't done in a long time. I held her hand. She was in tears. I stopped and looked at her. For the first time in a long time I saw my wife. Not the callous animal for those 11 months. I saw her. I saw the woman I loved. I saw the woman I love. And with that, I embraced my wife. We hope that by sharing these stories with interested folks like you, we can help people recognize the signs of a relationship in trouble, and avoid so many of these heartbreaking situations yourselves. Have a good day or night. Wherever you are.